Okay, so have you ever noticed how, like, sometimes you just wish you could be a little, more
I
eloquent?
know,
Yeah,
absolutely.
like whether you're prepping for one of those, like, standardized tests,
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
maybe you've got this book you've been meaning to read forever, but it's a little intimidating?
Totally.
Well, this deep dive is all about equipping you to build a seriously impressive vocabulary, sharp and effective and all that.
What I find so fascinating is we're going way beyond rote memorization here, right?
Right.
It's about making language work for you, whether it's nailing a big presentation or just having more like engaging conversations, you know?
Exactly. And the source material we dug into, it's like a gold mine. Seriously.
Yeah.
We're talking 26 different vocabulary building techniques. So
Wow.
whether you're a techie, a visual learner, someone who loves creative challenges, there's something here for everyone.
It just proves how personal the learning process is. What works for one person
Yeah.
might not do a thing for someone else. The key is to find the methods that spark your curiosity. Oh, for sure.
And keep you engaged, right?
Right. Okay, I'm already feeling inspired. Let's jump into some of these techniques, shall we?
Sounds good.
Let's start with a classic. Flashcards.
Oh, yeah.
Flashcards.
Now, before you groan, thinking back to like boring vocabulary lists from high school, we're going to spice things up a bit.
Okay, I like it.
What do you think?
I like where this is going.
Yeah, so the key here, it's about going beyond just the word and definition.
Okay.
Try crafting, like example sentences on your flashcards.
Oh, I see. So it really shows the word in action.
Exactly. It's like giving those words a little story to live in, right?
Makes them stick so much better.
Makes them so much more memorable.
Absolutely. And, don't underestimate the power of visual association either.
Oh, that's a good one.
Like, try sketching a little image or a symbol on the flashcard that, like, captures the essence of the word.
Oh, you know what? I've actually used that one myself.
Really?
Back in college, I was struggling to remember this word, labyrinthine. A tough one.
Huh.
So I drew a little maze on my flashcard,
Oh,
and suddenly the word just clicked.
it's those little connections, those, like, bursts of creativity that really make all the difference.
For sure. Now, for our listeners who love like leveraging technology,
Mm-hmm.
there's a whole world of vocabulary building apps out there.
Right.
One technique that's really grabbed my attention is spaced repetition.
Yeah, spaced repetition. That's all about working smarter, not harder.
I like that.
The basic idea is that you review words at increasingly spaced intervals,
Okay.
right before you're about to forget them.
Oh, that's interesting. So instead of just cramming all these words in your brain and hoping they stick, you're like strategically reinforcing them over time.
Exactly. You're giving your memory a little nudge at just the right moment.
I like it. I like it. So are there apps that do this?
There are tons. Anki, Memrise, Quizlet, they all use algorithms to do the heavy lifting for you, making the whole process incredibly efficient. In fact, some studies have shown that spaced repetition can actually boost learning by up to 400%.
Whoa, 400%. That's pretty impressive.
It's a game changer.
That's a game changer. And speaking of efficient learning, one technique I've found surprisingly effective is leveraging word families.
Oh, word families. That's a good one.
So instead of treating words like isolated units, we start to see those connections between them, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We explore synonyms, antonyms,
Mm.
even delve into the fascinating world of etymology.
Oh, I love etymology.
It's like building this web of meaning, right?
It is. It is.
Where one word leads you to another, and
Uh-huh.
suddenly you have this like constellation of vocabulary at your fingertips.
Precisely. And by understanding the root of a word, the prefixes, suffixes, you unlock this deeper level of comprehension.
Oh, for sure.
It's like cracking the code of language.
I love it. Okay, now say you're someone who thrives on visual learning. Have you ever tried mind mapping?
Mind mapping. Oh, that's a fantastic technique.
It's like you start with a central word or concept,
Yeah.
and then you branch out to related ideas,
Mm.
creating this kind of like visual spider web of connections.
It's a great way to see how words relate to each other, creating this sort of mental landscape of meaning.
Exactly. And for those who like a little bit of structure,
Oh, yeah.
you could even use different colors or symbols to represent like different parts of speech or levels of formality.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Now, here's another technique that might resonate with visual learners. the keyword method.
Oh, yeah, keyword method.
This was especially helpful for learning foreign languages, I've heard.
It's like building this mental bridge
Oh, interesting.
between your native language and the language you're trying to learn.
Okay, I'm intrigued. How does it work?
Okay, so say you're trying to learn the French word for dog, which is chien, right?
Okay, chin. Got it.
You might think of an English keyword that sounds kind of similar, like chin.
Okay, chin dog. Got it.
Then you create this vivid mental image that connects those two words. So picture a dog with a really prominent chin, maybe even like a little goatee, you know?
Okay, I can definitely picture that.
Okay.
And I feel like the sillier the image, the more likely I am to remember it.
Exactly. You're tapping into the creative visual parts of your brain
Right.
to make those foreign words stick.
Okay, so I know we've thrown a lot of techniques out there so far,
It's a lot, yeah.
but here's the good news. You don't have to use all of them.
Oh, of course not.
It's about finding the ones that really speak to you, the ones that give you that aha moment, you know?
It's all about finding what works for you.
Right. And that's where experimentation comes in. Don't be afraid to try different techniques, to mix and match, to find what really ignites your passion for language.
I love that.
So we've talked about flashcards, spaced repetition, word families, mind mapping, and the keyword method.
Wow, that's a lot.
Are you ready for even more vocabulary boosting strategies?
Bring it on.
Then stay tuned, because in part 2, we're going to delve even deeper into this world of vocabulary building. We'll explore techniques like contextual learning, gamified apps, and even a few advanced strategies that might just surprise you.
I can't wait. Welcome back, you guys.
All right, so in part 1, we covered some really great foundational techniques.
Oh, yeah, like flashcards.
Flashcards, mind mapping,
Mind mapping, those are good.
but I'm ready to get a little more adventurous. What else do we have?
Okay, well, let's talk about contextual learning.
Okay.
Remember that book you've been meaning to read? Or that podcast everyone keeps telling you about?
Yeah.
Those are gold mines for expanding your vocabulary.
It makes sense. Like if you're coming across words organically, you know,
Yeah.
woven into a story or a discussion, they're much more likely to stick.
Exactly. You're not just memorizing a definition.
Right.
You're absorbing the word's nuance, like its personality.
Yeah.
You're seeing how it interacts with other words, how it flows in a sentence.
It's like the difference between seeing a lion in a zoo enclosure versus seeing it, like, roam free on the savannah. It's a completely different experience.
That's a fantastic analogy. And speaking of experience, let's talk about another powerful technique, gamification.
Gamification. So, like, are we talking about those apps where you're slaying dragons while learning Spanish verbs?
Exactly. Apps like Duolingo, Drops, Babbel.
Yeah.
They leverage these game mechanics
Right.
to make learning fun and engaging.
That works.
Yeah, they use points, rewards, even a little friendly competition to keep you motivated.
You know, even if you're not using a dedicated app, you can still incorporate some of those game-like elements into your learning, like challenge yourself to use a certain number of new words in conversations each day, or like do a vocabulary quiz with a friend.
Absolutely. It's all about finding ways to make the process enjoyable.
It's for
Because,
sure.
let's be honest, the more you enjoy something, the more likely you are to stick with it.
I am all about injecting a little fun into the mix. But I'm also curious about some of those advanced techniques you mentioned.
Yeah.
What are some of the strategies that really take vocabulary building to, like, the next level?
All right. Well, one technique I find really intriguing is reverse learning.
Reverse learning.
Yeah. So instead of starting with the word and trying
Right.
to recall the definition, you flip the script.
Okay, so I'm starting with the definition
Uh-huh.
and trying to come up with
Yeah.
the word.
Exactly. It's a really powerful way to strengthen those recall abilities
Oh, okay.
and make sure you're truly owning the word, not just recognizing it.
So it's like the difference between, like, knowing the answer to a multiple choice question versus being able to write a detailed essay on the topic.
That's a great way to put it.
It requires a much deeper level of understanding.
Exactly. And speaking of deeper understanding, have you ever explored the world of word etymology?
Word etymology? That sounds kind of intimidating.
I know, it might sound daunting, but it's actually really fascinating. Etymology is basically the study of the origin of words, right?
Right.
And it can be a really powerful tool for expanding your vocabulary. So by understanding a word's roots, its prefixes and suffixes,
Mm-hmm.
you can often deduce its meaning even if you've never encountered it before.
So it's like becoming a word detective,
Yeah, exactly.
uncovering clues, piecing together the history of a word to unlock its meaning. That's actually really cool.
It is, it is. And sometimes those etymological explorations,
Yeah.
they can lead to some surprising discoveries. You might find these unexpected connections between words that seem completely unrelated on the surface.
That's interesting. Okay, I'm definitely going to have to give word etymology a try.
You should.
Now, for our listeners who are like tackling foreign languages,
Mhm.
do you have any advice on how they can effectively incorporate new vocabulary into their practice?
One strategy that can be really helpful is immersion.
Immersion, okay.
And that means surrounding yourself with the language as much as possible. Watch movies and TV shows in the target language, listen to music, even try reading simple books or articles.
So it's about creating an environment where you're constantly exposed to the language, even outside of like
Mm.
dedicated study sessions.
Exactly. And with all the online resources available these days,
Oh yeah, there's so
it's easier than ever to find authentic content that
Yeah.
aligns with your interests. You can find YouTube channels, podcasts, even online communities dedicated to language learning.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
I've definitely found that when I'm, engaged with content that I genuinely enjoy,
Yeah.
learning feels less like a chore.
Oh, yeah.
It feels more like a fun exploration.
Exactly. And that's what it's all about, finding the techniques and strategies that really resonate with you.
For sure.
The ones that make you excited to dive deeper into the world of language.
Well said. And remember, this isn't about becoming like a walking dictionary
No.
or showing off with obscure words.
Right.
It's about empowering yourself to communicate with clarity, precision, and maybe even a little bit of flair.
Absolutely. It's about unlocking the power of language to express yourself more effectively, to connect with others on a deeper level, and to expand your horizons.
So we've covered contextual learning, gamification, reverse learning, etymology, and immersion.
We have covered a lot.
And there's even more to come. In part 3, we'll explore some practical tips for putting these techniques into action and creating like a sustainable vocabulary building routine. That word, nerds. So we've explored all these techniques, from flashcards to etymology, but knowledge is only powerful if you can actually use it, right?
Oh, absolutely. It's one thing to recognize a word on a page, but it's another thing entirely to use it confidently in your own writing and speaking.
So how do we bridge that gap? How do we take all these techniques and like make them part of our everyday lives?
Well, one strategy I highly recommend is incorporating new words into your daily routine. And this doesn't have to be some big, time-consuming effort. Even small, consistent actions can make a huge difference.
Like what? Give me some examples.
Think about things you already do regularly. Maybe you journal every morning, or you have a long commute where you could listen to podcasts.
Oh, yeah.
Those are prime opportunities to practice.
So instead of just like passively listening to a podcast,
Yeah.
I could actively try to like identify any new words, jot them down,
Exactly, and then take it a step further.
right?
Try incorporating those words into your own writing or even conversations later in the day.
It's like a little treasure hunt for words, and then
Yeah.
you get to show off your loot.
Exactly, and the more you use those words, the more they'll become embedded in your memory.
Right, right. It's like building a mental muscle.
Exactly.
Speaking of mental muscles, let's talk about another technique that can strengthen vocabulary recall. Active retrieval practice.
Ah, yes. This is where we go beyond just recognizing a word. We actually challenge ourselves to recall it from memory.
So instead of just flipping through flashcards, I might like cover up the definition and try to come up with it on my own.
Exactly. Or you could try writing a short paragraph using several new words without looking back at your notes.
Oh, okay. That's a good challenge.
It's a bit more challenging, yeah, but the payoff is huge.
It's like the difference between like watching a workout video and actually
Yeah.
hitting the gym. You're really
Yeah.
pushing yourself.
Absolutely.
And just like physical exercise, the more you challenge your brain, the stronger it becomes.
Right.
Now, I know some of our listeners might be feeling a bit overwhelmed.
It's a lot to take in.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
But remember, this is a journey, not a race.
That's so important.
The key is to find a few techniques that resonate with you and start incorporating them gradually.
And don't be afraid to experiment.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll discover you're a visual learner who loves mind mapping. Or maybe gamified apps are your secret weapon.
Exactly. Embrace the process of discovery and celebrate your progress along the way.
Every new word you learn is a victory.
And as you continue on this, like, vocabulary expansion journey, always remember the why behind it. Why are you doing this?
So what's your motivation?
Is it to ace that test? or finally conquer that intimidating book.
Right, right.
Or maybe it's something deeper, like a desire to unlock new levels of understanding, to communicate more effectively.
To really own the power of language.
Whatever your reason, let it fuel your passion for learning. Embrace the challenge, have fun with it, and watch your vocabulary just blossom.
Yeah, and remember, the world of words is vast and always evolving. There's always something new to discover, a new connection to make.
So keep that curiosity alive. Keep those mental muscles flexed, and never stop exploring the power of language.
That's it. Happy word wrangling.